When a younger woman smiles at an older man, it often goes unnoticed by him. Or worse, it's misinterpreted through a narrow lens of physical appearance or outdated assumptions about age gaps. But the truth is far deeper and far more rooted in something men often overlooking: stability. Not financial stability, though that might be part of the context. I'm talking about emotional stability. A man's ability to remain grounded when the world around him spins, to stay calm when others are reactive, to walk into a room and not need to dominate it, but to anchor it with presence. That kind of stability is not just noticed, it's felt. Younger women, often navigating a chaotic and overstimulated culture, are surrounded by a generation of men who chase validation like currency. Performance, bravado, emotional volatility, all wrapped in the illusion of masculinity. And in that storm, the older man who knows who he is, who doesn't chase, who doesn't beg to be seen, who doesn't need to be the loudest in the room, stands out without even trying. His quiet confidence becomes a gravitational force. And that smile, it's not flirtation, it's recognition. This psychological phenomenon isn't romantic in essence. It's biological, cognitive, even spiritual. People, especially women, are biologically wired to detect safety in their environment. Not just physical safety, but emotional and psychological safety. An older man, tempered by time, humbled by failure, sharpened by life's unpredictability, often carries with him an energy of calm assurance. He's seen enough to know that most storms pass. He doesn't escalate tension. He regulates it. He's not easily offended because he's not easily threatened. That presence registers in ways most men his age have stopped recognizing. And here's the paradox: the older man who tries to impress, who mimics youth, who postures for attention, he repels the very thing he's seeking. Because the moment you try to be seen, you signal that you don't yet feel whole. Younger women don't smile at desperation disguised as energy. They smile at energy that doesn't require attention to exist. That's stability. That's what they're responding to, even if they can't articulate it. In the modern dating landscape, the masculine role has been distorted by confusion. The loudest voice often wins the screen. The flashiest story gets the swipe. But real attraction, lasting, conscious, rooted attraction, is still tethered to timeless principles. And one of those principles is this cue: true masculinity doesn't chase chaos. It creates order. The man who embodies this doesn't need to be 25, doesn't need six-pack abs, doesn't need to prove he's alpha. His strength is subtle. It's in how he carries silence. It's in how he listens more than he speaks. It's in how he can remain calm in the face of tension, not because he's numb, but because he's mastered his reactions. That kind of man becomes a mirror. He reflects back to others their own instability, not by judging them, but simply by not matching their dysfunction. And for many younger women who are just beginning to understand the difference between attention and intention, that reflection is rare. It's why some are drawn to him, even if they don't fully understand why. It's not always romantic. Sometimes it's archetypal. He represents what safety feels like in a human form. So the older man, when he begins to realize this, must resist the temptation to interpret that smile as an invitation to relive his youth. It's not about age reversal. It's about energetic maturity. He is being smiled at not because of his age or despite it, but because of the integration that age has allowed. If he holds it with humility, with respect, with grounded awareness, he becomes not just attractive, but deeply influential in ways most men never become. This influence isn't exploitative. It's honorable. Because when an older man holds space for a younger woman not to impress her, but to support her growth, without agenda, without attachment, he becomes what this culture desperately lacks: an elder, not an old man, not a romantic pursuer, an elder, a presence of clarity in a world full of noise. And here's the thing: he doesn't need to say much. His life speaks for him. His discipline, his restraint, his posture in discomfort, all of it radiates without force. And that, perhaps more than anything, is why she smiles. She senses one thing she doesn't find in younger men competing for surface-level dominancing peace. A peace that comes from knowing who you are and no longer needing the world to confirm it. So when she smiles, don't try to become something more. Just continue to be what you've already become. Because in a world full of noise, your stability is the message. In a world oversaturated with performance, where every gesture is curated for attention, every word optimized for impact, what quietly disrupts the pattern is presency. Not charisma, not entertainment, not bravado, but the grounded, unshakable quality of someone who does not need to perform in order to be significant. And this, more than any rehearsed line or clever move, is what draws younger women toward older men, often without even knowing why. It's easy to assume the attraction is about maturity or stability or even the archetypal security older men are believed to offer. But those are surface interpretations. What's actually being responded to is the presence of a man who has stopped auditioning, a man who, through trial and error, has realized that value isn't in what you say. It's in how you are. Younger women live in a world of heightened emotional volatility, swiping through men who lead with persona but lack depth, watching relationships dissolve under the weight of constant stimulation and ego-driven competition. In that landscape, a man who doesn't flinch when silence enters the room becomes rare. A man who listens without preparing his next response, who holds space without needing to fill it with noise, who doesn't flail for relevance. He radiates a different kind of magnetism. It's not youthful charm. It's not rehearsed smoothness. It's internal alignment. The paradox, of course, is that presence can't be faked. You either have it or you don't. And it's not about personality, it's about integration. A man becomes present when he has made peace with his own past, when he has nothing left to prove, when he's no longer trying to control how others see him. That man walks into a room and shifts the energy without needing to dominate it. His very non-need becomes a form of quiet power. And it's that power that younger women instinctively respond to, not because he's older, but because he's aware. Presence is rooted in self-knowledge. And self-knowledge doesn't come cheaply. It requires failures,
regret, solitude, time.
Most younger men haven't enough life experience or internal stillness to develop it. They're still chasing identity through success, through status, through validation. They fill the room with words because silence still feels like rejection. But a man who has learned to be still in himself, who no longer relies on performance to generate approval, offers something no app, no trend, no superficial charm can replicating resonance. That resonance isn't just psychological, it's neurological. Our brains are wired to scan for cues of safety, and true presence signals safety at a primal level. It communicates, I'm here, I'm listening, and I don't need to take anything from you. That kind of energy is incredibly rare in a culture addicted to extraction, where conversations often come with hidden agendas and relationships are transactional at their core. So when a younger woman smiles at an older man, it's not necessarily romantic, and it's certainly not just about age. It's about the felt sense of being in the company of someone who isn't trying to manage her perception, someone who isn't trying to be anything other than what he is. That authenticity creates space. And space is the one thing she rarely experiences in a world full of people constantly trying to occupy her attention. Now, here's the deeper insight. You don't cultivate presence by wanting to be present. You cultivate it by dismantling the layers of insecurity that made you perform in the first place. Presence is the result of confronting your illusions, integrating your pain, and emerging on the other side without needing to carry a mask. It's not sexy in the traditional sense, but it's profoundly attractive because it's rare. And what's rare, the human brain values, whether we're conscious of it or not. So the next time you catch a younger woman smiling at you, don't immediately filter it through ego. Don't assume it's superficial or strange or some fluke of generational curiosity. Consider that she might be responding to something deeper, something that can't be bought or forced or faked, something you've spent years unknowingly cultivating the ability to be fully here. Because in the end, the most powerful man in the room is not the loudest, the wealthiest, or the most youthful. It's the one who no longer needs to be noticed to feel complete. Emotional maturity is one of the most misunderstood and undervalued qualities in men. It's not just about staying calm under pressure or refusing to engage in petty arguments. It's about the structure of your inner world, your relationship with your own thoughts, unexpected, and your ability to maintain psychological coherence even when the environment tempts you to fragment. That is what makes a man trustworthy. That is what makes him different. And that often is what a younger woman notices before anything else. We live in a culture that rewards reaction. Unexpected outrage is viral. Impulse is mistaken for authenticity. Insecurity cloaked in bravado is celebrated as confidence. Many younger men lacking internal scaffolding get pulled into this chaos because they haven't yet suffered the consequences of letting emotion override principle. Expected. But the older man, if he's done the work, if he's reflected instead of just aged, understands that to be ruled by emotion is to be at the mercy of every opinion, every rejection, every challenge to the ego. And once you've lived through enough storms, unexpected, you learn that peace isn't found in controlling the world. It's found in mastering your internal response to it. That's emotional maturity, when you stop outsourcing your reactions to other people's behavior. When you can be insulted without becoming reactive. Expected. When you can be desired without becoming arrogant. When you can be dismissed without feeling diminished. And it is precisely this kind of emotional sovereignty that draws younger women in, whether they're aware of it or not. Because in a world that teaches performance, but rarely integrity, unexpected, that kind of internal calm becomes a beacon. What she notices, perhaps unconsciously, is that you don't flinch when things don't go your way. You don't crumble under discomfort. You don't seek control as a substitute for connection. And that makes her feel something very rare, unexpected, emotionally safe, because you're not reacting from your wounds, you're responding from your values. Now, let's be clear. Emotional maturity doesn't mean the absence of feeling. It means that your feelings are no longer in control of your behavior. You've integrated your anger, your fear, your disappointment. You don't deny them, you understand them. And because of that, you don't lash out. You don't punish people for not meeting your expectations. You don't use manipulation or withdrawal to regain power. Instead, you operate from clarity. Unexpected. You know what you will and will not tolerate. You don't need to defend your standards because they are not born out of pride, but out of self-respect. This is powerful in any relationship, but especially in dynamics where age differences can easily tip into imbalance. Unexpected. A mature man doesn't exploit that gap. He doesn't weaponize his experience. He doesn't attempt to educate or dominate. He listens. He reflects. He models what it means to be grounded, not because he's trying to impress, but because that's simply who he's become. Unexpected. That's what changes everything. Because younger women, especially those who are emotionally intelligent themselves, aren't looking for a father figure or a savior. They're looking for someone who is not a source of more instability. Unexpected. Someone who doesn't make them guess what mood he's in today. Someone who doesn't make love conditional on performance. Someone who doesn't create chaos and call it passion. Emotional maturity offers this without words, without effort, because it speaks through the nervous system. Expected. It says, I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to win. I'm here to be real, to be steady, to be responsible for my energy. The tragedy is that many men reach physical maturity without ever cultivating emotional maturity, and they wonder why their relationships are shallow, unexpected, why they feel misunderstood, why the women they want to attract smile but don't stay. It's because the world no longer needs more men who chase validation. It needs men who've already earned their own respect. And here's the beauty: emotional maturity isn't tied to status, appearance, or age. It's available to any man willing to do the hard internal work of self-examination. It requires confronting the parts of you that still seek approval, that still react to criticism, that still need others to behave a certain way for you to feel okay. Expected. And the more you dissolve those patterns, the more presence, stability, and attraction you begin to radiate, not by force, but by nature. Because ultimately, it's not your charm, your success, or your story that makes her smile. It's your self-control. And in a world addicted to drama, calm is the new charisma.